Good morning, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome to the Global Networking Forum French Fireside chat. My name is Foued Kefi from Business France, the French Trade Commission in the UAE. It is our great honor to organize the French Space Days. We are hosting a delegation of 13 French SMEs in the space industry. And today morning, we will have 7 speakers talking about different thematic of the space. So to open officially the GNF, I will call His Excellency Xavier Châtel, the Ambassador of France. Thank you very much.
Good morning. This looks very much like a space area with lots of empty space and but lots of stars in front of me. Very quickly, because we're going to have a big panel discussion, I just wanted to say a few words as a matter of introduction. First, to say that it's very impressive to see that the UAE is now hosting the IAC. I think it's a testimony to the fact that the UAE has really become now a force to reckon with in the field of space, and not only with the Mars probe, but also with the very promising and indeed ambitious endeavors which have been announced recently, especially with more things on the moon and even Venus at that. So I think what we're seeing today is a sign of what a journey the UAE's experience in space has been and how impressive it is. Space, of course, is hugely important for France. We recently, in the field of the military, we created a space command. We're very happy to have today the head of our space command. And of course, our space agency, and we have the head of our space agency, has been existing for 60 years now. It's the 60th anniversary. But space is also an area of cooperation between France and the UAE, and has been so for a long time. Actually, the CNES, so the French Space Agency, has been the first agency in the world to sign a cooperation agreement with the UAE Space Agency. So this cooperation dates back quite a long time now. And of course, with the interest that was developed in France for this sector came the entire ecosystem. So there's a very vibrant ecosystem of companies, and I'm really, really delighted that we're bringing today a selection of 12, I think, 12 excellent French companies that will be part of this GNF. I would like to thank Business France for organizing this event. It's an amazing opportunity for the companies to brainstorm, and I think there will be 3 fascinating topics between habitat, surveillance, and security, all extremely relevant to our current priorities. Now, I will not stand between you and the discussion, but just to say again, thank you very much for the organization. Thank you for the great participants, and I wish you a very fruitful morning. Thank you.
Merci, Monsieur l'Ambassadeur. I would like to thank as well all the partners of the French Space Days, the Mohammed bin Rashid Space Center, the CNES, as well as the UAE Space Agency, which is represented today by Abdullah Al-Marar, who will say a welcome word as well. Thank you.
Thank you so much, ladies and gentlemen. I just wanted to start with thanking you on behalf of the UAE Space Agency for giving us this opportunity to welcome you and probably shed a bit of light on the space sector in the UAE. So starting, of course, nearly 2 decades ago, we actually transitioned in the UAE space sector and space industry from being space users into space operators, and that was with the establishment of Al-Thuraya company that provided mobile satellite services. And of course, that continued with also the establishment of IASat. So the commercial part continued and still continues today. Another really important highlight is also the addition to the portfolio of the UAE space sector, the establishment of IAST, the Emirates Institute for Advanced Science and Technology, which is also known today as MBRSC. And that, of course, marked the entrance of the UAE into the space engineering and manufacturing and building of satellites. And of course, that continued and incrementally developed and grew from a 30% participation of Emiratis in building satellites up to 100% of Emiratis building Khalifa-Sat that was launched in 2018. And they continue to do that with the Mohammed bin Zayed or MBZ satellite that's going to be launched in next year. 2023. Now, that's another important highlight, and the last but not least important highlight is the entrance of the UAE to the space exploration, and that was inaugurated in 2014 with the announcement of the Emirates Mars mission. Entering the space exploration field with Emirates Mars mission, of course, the idea behind that was to disrupt the UAE space industry from lots of focus areas. So that was to enhance the industry, to build advanced space capabilities, especially in the field of space exploration. And of course, that continued with the launch of the Emirates Mars mission and the dissemination of data that was that started the beginning of this month. And up to date, we have nearly 110 gigabytes of Mars data that was spread to different science and very well-known research and development centers. And of course, this journey did not stop with Emirates Mars mission. Very recently, the mission of exploring the asteroid belt was announced, and that also continues the journey of what Emirates Mars mission started, with a very big focus on the industry this time. So big priority will be given to the private industry in the UAE to be part of this mission and grow it even further. And with that, of course, in parallel to that, we have launched a number of programs. One which focuses and really encourages space ecosystems, what we call space economic zones, in different parts of the UAE, Abu Dhabi, Dubai. And it's focused at nurturing and also welcoming space startups, SMEs, growing them with anchor clients around them, and research and development institute and facilities, as well as another program that is focused on the downstream, enabling the downstream value-added services and space applications. With this program, of course, that was launched, we focused to begin with on two very important themes. One is climate change and solving the challenge of climate change, as well as food security. And with that, I conclude, and I thank you again for this opportunity on behalf of the UAE Space Agency, and wish you the best of luck with the panel discussions that will come. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Abdullah. So now we will start the first fireside chat about surveillance. So I'm calling Elodie Robin, who is the head of La French Tech in the UAE. She will be our moderator today. And I'm calling as well as the first two French companies to start this fireside chat. So we will have, thank you. We will have 3 sessions of 15 minutes each. Thank you.
Yeah, this one is working. Perfect. So Your Excellency, ladies and gentlemen, we will present you today the excellence of French technology on space for 3 different Fireside chats, showcasing 7 amazing technologies around surveillance, habitat, and security. So we'll start with the surveillance topic, and I would like to welcome François Mazière, the Chief Commercial Officer of Share My Space, and Clément Gallic, the co-founder and CEO of Ensign Labs. So my first question will be a comment for both of you. What is your technology, and could you precise the operational application of it, please?
Okay. First, thank you everyone for being there, listening to us. So yes, at Ensign Labs, we are satellite operators. We own our own satellites, but our core technology is radio frequency monitoring from space, and more particularly radio frequency interception from space and localization of assets on Earth. So basically, we developed our payload 100% in-house, and then we put it on some platforms and deliver it in space to gather information, localize, and sign the radio frequency mission from Earth. We start for now with a very first service dedicated to maritime surveillance. We'll come back later on this particular point. But globally, we deploy antennas in space, quite brand new antennas, a new way to do this kind of technology in space to bring public and government entities a new kind of data, giving them the reality of human activity on seas and the possibility to act against illegal actions or this kind of stuff. So, just very brief.
François, what about Share My Space?
Yeah. So at Share My Space, we ensure safety and sustainability for future space activities. And we believe that for this, we all need to know more about what's going on up there. And in fact, today, there is a huge difference between what is seen on the ground and the number of objects orbiting. There are 900,000 objects orbiting around the Earth, and despite all the best effort achieved so far, only 3% of them are tracked, and they represent a threat for future space activities. So we think that doing more of the same infrastructure is not the right thing. So we've developed stations based on optical sensing called multi-telescope observation stations, which are able to track and detect and more catalog large amount of objects. Those stations that we have patented are going to be in a network. When we achieve the network of 4 stations, we will be able to catalog 150,000 objects. And that will be already 5 times more than what's achieved so far. And in the meantime, what we do operationally is to help our customers to develop their capabilities in terms of sensing, but also on data fusion. And also we help operators in matters of safety for their fleet, such as fleet automation and collision avoidance.
That's it. So my next question is for Ensign Labs. You are satellite operators, expert in ship localization thanks to electromagnetic emissions. Are dark vessels your target, and what are your references in terms of maritime surveillance?
Yes, thank you. Very quickly, yes, dark vessels are definitely our targets. Just to go back on the operational system, actually we have 4 operative satellites in space, so our solution is fully deployed and fully operative for France, of course, and other countries. I'll come back on that later. But just to explain everyone, the objective of the company is to deploy a full constellation of satellites, between around 20 satellites, let's say that. So for now, 4 fully operative ones. And what we deliver to client is data. In fact, we are data provider, data coming from space, but basically data. We deliver our customers maritime maps, in fact, with the full and the reality of the human activities on seas. And I will add that we do not focus at all on beacons aboard ships. We focus on the passive electromagnetic emissions on the ships, which give us really the capability to localize all the ships, even and more important, the ones that are not willing to be found. And we are able to localize them around the kilometer of accuracy, and giving this our customers an actionable data to act at sea and to operate and use their forces in a better way. You are talking about references. Of course, we are very close to the French Navy. We've done a lot of undisclosed operation, of course, with them in Pacific or in Atlantic and complicated areas, let's say that. But we are not only working with France, we also are fully operative with Japan Coast Guard. We are working with some US companies, not in defense, but more in security and monitoring. Canada is quite a good friend of us, and many other undisclosed customers. But yes, service is fully operative, and we can start work tomorrow if needed with anyone.
Thank you. I think it's definitely interesting for the UAE Navy, especially with the last event that happened in our region. François, last question is for you. What is disruptive in your technology, and how would you deal with information sovereignty?
So the main difference with our technology today compared to others, such as radar and laser, is it doesn't cost so much energy, and it addresses all orbits. So for lasers and radar, you need to spend energy to send a signal, receive it. Our stations are using optical sensing in a passive mode, so we're able to capture information, and that's addressing all orbits. The interesting aspect of sovereignty in matters of surveillance here is that it's still very difficult to understand precisely what's going on in space. And you've seen some months ago 2 constellations on the news that were about to collide between each others. And not anyone was able to say the same thing about what really happened. So like in a car accident, having an independent information source is also very important for whether you're an operator, an insurer, or government, to understand what happens and to ensure this is a reliable source of information. So for us, in matter of it's a matter of sovereignty as well. We speak a lot about space traffic management today, but it is not yet defined who or what is going to be the entity, or where does it will come from, this space traffic management. So an aspect of sovereignty is also to be able to say something about what's happening, and to have capabilities in different countries to contribute to this space traffic management. So that's why we're providing an independent source of information, which will be a first of the kind of a commercial available catalog from Europe. And we're also providing infrastructure and detection capabilities to government and institutions who want to contribute or have their own independent source of data. And as the Expo 2020 in Dubai is also pointing out a lot about sustainability, and that sustainability is a matter for all. What we like to say as well is the space sustainability is also a matter for all, and that anyone can contribute, government, institution, and also commercial entities.
Well, thank you, gentlemen. I'm sorry we'll not take any Q&A on stage today, but please feel free to reach out to Clément and François after the event. Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
So we will move now to a very hot topic, which is habitat on space. And I would like to welcome on stage Peter Weiss, the CEO of Spartan Space. and Barbara Pelvisi, the CEO of Interstellar Lab.
Good morning.
Hello. Yeah, it's working. Hi, everyone.
It's working or not? I will give you mine. So Peter, my first question is for you. How are your references in ocean habitat applicable in space?
Thank you. Good morning. Actually, there are a lot of similarities between both fields. Both are extreme environments, and I think we both share the vision that people will in the future work in space and also work underwater maybe. So there are lots of technologies that can be used underwater in underwater habitats that can also be applied to space. So for example, actually we have the honor to show our habitat prototype next to the MBREC right behind us in the exhibition hall. And some of the technologies that can be used inside such a habitat can also be used in submarines or underwater station. Just talking about air purification, air recycling, water recycling, communication, things like that. So actually what we are looking at is not only the architecture of an habitat, but also this kind of synergy between underwater and space. And also going further, because both are quite extreme environments, the idea is also using this kind of technology and bring it back on Earth, if I might say. Just taking an example, air purification, as I said, very important in a habitat and also in underwater and in space, but could also be a technology that you can bring into a normal household today that can help quite a lot. So there are quite a lot of similarities. Last similarity is also about inspiration. I mean, both are extreme environments, and astronauts are inspiring a lot the youth, and I think it's the same for aquanauts. So I had the chance to participate also a little bit with NASA and ESA in the underwater training of the lunar astronauts in Nemo. So this kind of activity is something that's very inspiring. So it's not only about technology, it's also about pushing the frontiers further.
Thank you. I totally agree with you. You know, when you see all this detractor about our space program, they generally forget that we are trying to push the boundaries of technology in space to be able to get a better future on our world on Earth. Barbara, so how are your module bringing solutions for sustainable farming on Earth and also life support in space?
I agree with what you said. There is a strong link between the ocean, the Earth, and space when it comes to, you know, life support system, living in a harsh environment, and how do you create the structure? How do you create the habitat, the shelter that will support life? And so one of the things that we do at Interstellar, so it's of course working on the structure and the deployable structure, but it's also developing life support system. So it's how you control the air, how do you bring the food, how do you recycle the water. And our entire mission is really to develop system for space, yes, but to apply them back on Earth. And so the dome, the inflatable that we've been developing, is actually a proven solution for sustainable farming on Earth. So by recreating a completely closed system where we control the atmospheric condition and climatic condition, we were able to develop a very sustainable indoor farming system. So where we recycle the CO2 by scrubbing the CO2 out of the dome and pushing it inside the dome, a little bit like the way we are going to do it on Mars, you know, by capturing the water that is directly inside the dome, recycling it, and putting it back into the plants. So this closed loop and regenerative approach, and that's actually a solution that is competing with, you know, on Earth with container farms, with bioclimatic greenhouses. So it's very interesting to see how space design and space approach, living in an enclosed environment, are application on Earth right now.
Thank you. So we talk a lot about oceans and space, and I think it's definitely also a huge interest for another harsh environment, which is our desertic environment in the UAE and in the region. Thank you, Barbara. Peter, can you tell us more about your partnership with the Mohammed bin Rashid Space Center and how this is supporting also your development in the UAE and in the region?
We are quite a young company. We are a baby company, if I can say. We have just been created in January this year. Actually, we had the opportunity to very quickly come in contact with MBRC, and they gave us this great opportunity to come here, expose our prototype next to the MBRC stand here at IAC. And actually, it was that support that pushed us extremely further, because, as I said, we started this company not so long time ago, and having the opportunity to show our first prototype only some months after the creation of the company here in Dubai, next to the host, if I might say, is an extreme honor. And so this adventure just started. We are having talks now about how we can continue. Actually, because what you see here at the stand is a prototype, of course, but we are searching for partners that can come on with technology. We don't want to do that alone. It's not our intention to do everything. We want to do it with partners, with local partners that can bring in technology like life support and things like that in order to build a system that can fly to the moon. We want to go to the moon with that.
Thank you for this. I think it's a great example showcasing what we can do in the UAE and also the value proposition of our country. You know, a lot of people are telling me that, yes, we are a very young ecosystem. We are talking about space in the Emirates, but definitely we have the support of our government agencies and also our regulators, which are very open-minded regarding new technologies and can really fast-track, you know, the deployment and the usage of these new technologies. So Barbara, my last question is for you. We are talking a lot about technologies, you know, and of course, in our industry, we are surrounded by engineers who are passionate about technologies. But I think that as an investor, you know, my question generally is more about the business model and how unique is it. And so how do you generate revenues on Earth prior to contracting with space agencies for the establishment of a lunar and then a Martian base?
It's a good question, and it's actually one of the conversations we had here. Also yesterday we were presenting in Riyadh our solution, but one of the main struggle for space companies is to find a terrestrial business model. I mean, when you are in the business of habitat, I'm not talking when you're in the business of launcher or satellite or data, which is already, you know, an established market, but when you're selling greenhouses or habitat to live on the moon, I mean, there is no market right now on the moon. There is nobody waiting for us to put a habitat there, and it's going to take a little bit of time before we get lunar customer. So the key is really to find how you can build a sustainable company by selling your product here and finding terrestrial application. So it was what I was telling a little bit on the prior question, which is, okay, here, our system, our dome, we sell them for a sustainable farming solution. And I think this is what is interesting about Interstellar Lab is that straight away we had this double angle of, okay, one part of our business model is to contract with space agencies to develop a greenhouse for the moon and then for Mars. This is a very long-term mission, but we can reach that only if we successfully manage to have a business model here. And the business model here is to sell hardware, is to sell greenhouses, is to go after the indoor farming markets with a solution that is using space technology. And actually, and also I want to mention, it's not because it's space technology that it's expensive. And yesterday we've been asked about the cost of our dome, which is a small dome is 200K. And it's pretty cheap, actually. I mean, it's the same price in a container, and an advanced container, and full of technology. So there is an opportunity for a space company like us to find a terrestrial business model, to become sustainable companies, and then to go to the moon and to Mars.
Well, thank you for bringing back the discussion, you know, to basics. And thank you also for being a strong advocate of hardware, because we talk a lot about digitalization, you know, but I think that the last months of COVID have shown that we are not digital people and we are people that are living in the real world. Well, thank you, both of you. And we will move to another very strategic topic, which is security. I would like to welcome on stage Alain Lapère, Senior Business Manager of Magellium, Salem Balmana, International Key Account Manager at Southern, and Jean-François Morizur, CEO of K-Labs. Alain, my first question is for you. So Earth observation is a critical tool for security, from border monitoring to operation theater data to disaster recovery. Alain, for you, what is the most critical challenge that must be addressed for Earth observation?
Thank you. For me, the most critical challenge is the proper handling of data. Indeed, what you need for security is data on the ground and not in space or in the sky. Basically, for example, if you capture a video in space with a high quality camera system, you collect gigabytes of data in the satellite. But what you really need is data on the ground, and very often only kilobytes of actual information.
Thank you. So if I understand well, you first need to capture high quality data. Salem, for you, what are the ingredients of a high quality data acquisition?
The high quality data is strongly linked to the quality of the camera, but not only. We tend to forget that a satellite is a moving object, and it is important to take into account this motion and the perturbation that will induce on the pointing accuracy of the satellite. So to have a high quality data acquisition, we need to have a good accuracy of the orientation of the satellite. That is the reason why we have been working for a long period, more than 50 years, on star trackers. We have a large portfolio of star trackers, and specifically we have developed a star tracker for Earth observation named Hydra. It is a Greek name linked to the fact that, in fact, we have a multiple head star tracker with a separated electronic, and this kind of star tracker can be used close to the instrument, and by this way we are able to have a good accuracy of the orientation of the satellite close to the instrument itself. We have today more than 700 of this kind of star tracker on board, on orbit, and many of them are used for Earth observation. We are closing the loop by leveraging our expertise on star tracker for the development of cameras. I would summarize my answer in 2 points. The first one is to have a very good cameras. The second point is to have a very good star trackers.
Thank you. Jean-François, what about when it's not possible to process the data in space, or when you have to have the full data capture in space? And do you have a bottleneck?
So, first off, indeed, there's data processing that needs to be done on the satellite. But when it's not possible, you need to beam down everything. So today with radio, you can have very high capacity. gigabytes of data, 10 gigabit per second, if you can afford very expensive antennas, very expensive satellites. But there's a lot of images that remain in space today, and that's a problem because it's untapped information. And so what we've been doing at KI Labs is trying to go beyond radio, and going beyond radio is leveraging lasers to actually get more data on the ground, get high capacity, basically get fiber optics level of capacity, 100 gigabit per second or more, even on small satellites. The laser communication is it's been a research topic for a long time. The main problem being in the atmosphere, being scintillation. Scintillation, you can experience it for yourselves by just looking at a star, see it twinkling. This actually kills your transmission. So you need to remove that to solve that problem. This is what we bring, leveraging telecom and basically optical know-how, telecom, defense, and industrial lasers. And we're able to break this barrier to make operational ground stations. We've got a few.
Thank you. Alain, I see that there is a lot of complementary between you, because you are all in the Earth observation field. Do you work together on projects?
Well, actually, we haven't worked together so far, but we are starting, and typically with Southern and Loft Orbital, we have set up a partnership in order to develop a new constellation for video cameras for 2025. And this constellation will take benefit from the edge computing techniques and solutions that we have developed in Magellan, in particular for the French MOD at drone level. We target a minimum of 5 small sats to provide a good revisit, and first pilot satellite will be launched in 1 year from now. So I think we're gonna work very closely together very soon.
Amazing, to see this partnership and these use cases created between SMEs. So this project, will it include lasers?
Well, not for the pilot, because the solution is already designed, but obviously we are totally open to discussing it, in particular with Jean-François.
So Jean-François, more generally, do you see laser replacing radio in the future?
I don't think that lasers will ever replace radio. It will be a very good complement, but it will never be as a replacement. Lasers have a lot of benefits, not just very high capacity, but you have discretion. You don't have any problem with frequency allocation. You cannot scramble it. So for some security and defense applications, very valuable. But there's robustness on the radio, especially in S and X band. No problem with cloud coverage and stuff like that, which means that we will keep radio at least for robustness. So I think there's going to be a partnership between lasers and radio, and we will not forget about radio, of course.
Well, thank you, gentlemen, for joining me today. I would like you to join me in giving a warm round of applause to all our 7 panelists. Thank you.
Thanks to all of you for this discussion. And now for the official closing, I'm calling Major General Michel Friedling, Commander of the French Space Command. Thank you.
Pleasure to remove this. You have 2 reasons to remove this. Drink a coffee or give some words. So all the interesting things were said before me, so I'm going to be short, fortunately for you. First, I would like to thank you for inviting me to participate in such an inspiring venue and to allow me to give this short speech to conclude this session. I have been really truly impressed by the level of creativity of the and the inventiveness, the contagious enthusiasm of our guest speakers. And those features are surely for us key ingredients that lay down the road for disruptive innovations and game-changing breakthroughs. And I wish really enduring success to all of those proud French entrepreneurs and in their respective endeavors. Innovation and disruptive technologies, such as those presented today, are of tremendous interest for us, for the Space Command. Indeed, they are both the desired elements that may grant a superior advantage over an adversary, and they are also the feared elements that can shift the balance of power in favor of a potentially aggressive competitor. And as such, a military commander, me, cannot ignore the emergence of new ideas and new technologies. He must monitor their development and embrace the change they trigger in due time. And thanks to the burgeoning new technologies it carries, the so-called new space is clearly a field of interest for military forces. It holds tremendous potential and multiple applications for defense and security issues. You probably know that in 2019, France has published a defense space strategy. This strategy acknowledged the critical importance of space for prosperity, sustainable development for military operations, and collective security. And I never waste any opportunity to say how much space is important for everything now. And I'm afraid I'm going to state the obvious for such an audience, but again, let me tell you that from decision-making to military operations, for environments, for climate change, agriculture, energy, infrastructures, logistics, education, everything now is depending on space. And space irrigates every single aspect of our economy and our way of life. But our strategy recognizes also the fast-growing number of risks and the appearance of threats in space. And we definitely don't want space to become a wild, wide west. And as a result, the main goal of our strategy is to ensure our freedom of access to space and our freedom of action in space or from space. This is the reason why we decided to reorganize the Ministry of Defense, the French Ministry of Defense, by creating the Space Command, the French Space Command I'm in charge of. And this command is in charge of every single aspect of the space domain for the Ministry of Defense. That means policy, strategy, capability, innovation, international collaboration, space operations, training, education. And also, we decided to develop and to increase the synergies between the French Space Agency, the CNES, and the French Space Command, meaning the French Ministry of Defense. This is also the reason we decided to build a consistent and overall capability roadmap and to have some new capabilities to protect our space interests and to exercise our right of self-defense in space, which is quite new. So unsurprisingly, one of our main lines of effort is to seize all opportunities given by the new space. In other words, we must follow the pace of innovation and be a leading nation in the field of space technologies. And to succeed, we try to be a lean and agile organization. And we are a lean organization, very small organization, and I like it. Small is beautiful. And also to have a specific mindset that fosters synergies and takes advantage of the concentration of talents in a flourishing French national space ecosystem. I have listened with great interest the exciting project exposed by our French entrepreneurs. There is no doubt that their work and their commercial developments will transform our approach to the space domain, and I want to thank them for this. They are a sample of this innovation that we are so happy to meet so very often in France. And we need them, we need you. They are also clear evidence of the dynamism of the French space ecosystem. So let me conclude with these words. You are entrepreneurs. You think and design solutions for technological and commercial applications. We also are entrepreneurs. We think and design solutions for a peaceful outer space. You invest in ideas and technologies. We invest in sovereignty and security for the benefit of everybody on Earth with our allies and partners, and we are eager to do more with the UAE, obviously. I hope each of you will continue to thrive and help us make space a better, safer, and more secure place in support of all human peaceful activities. Thank you very much, and again, good luck for the rest. Thank you.
Merci, mon général. Thank you, everyone, for attending this French GNF. And now let's have some networking. Thank you very much.